Hello, my name is Mike, and in this video you join me on a very typical Vancouver winter day, and you also join me next to the BMW X3 Yes, this is an electric vehicle. Not fully electric though, it's a plug-in hybrid. And BMW is a little bit late to the game because Mercedes has had the GLC 350e for a couple of years now. Volvo has had the XC60 for 4 or 5 years. And of course, Lexus has had hybrids ever since Queen Elizabeth II has been crowned. So let's get out of this rain and find out how good this BMW X3 is compared to the others. Let's go for a drive. The X3 slots in between the gasoline-only 30i and the more powerful M40i. It still has a 4-cylinder engine, but with an electric motor sandwiched in between the engine and the transmission. Total system output is 288 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Due to the instant torque of the electric motor, the BMW X3 feels quick off the line despite its extra weight from the batteries. It's almost 200 kilograms more at 2,080 kilograms curb weight. It's the same story when overtaking a slower vehicle on the highway. The electric motor provides instant torque and fills the gaps between shifts for an instant boost in power. There are a few different drive modes that you can choose from. There are, of course, the standard Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro modes, but you can also choose between 3 different eDrive modes, which is the electric portion of this SUV. By default, you're always going to be in the auto eDrive mode, which is just basically a regular hybrid. The computer decides what to do or which source of power to use, either the battery power or the gasoline power. In this mode, you can drive up to about 110 kilometers an hour or about 65 miles an hour on pure electricity. However, you're not really going to get a whole lot of range because this X3, well, the batteries are kind of small. Maximum that I ever saw the electricity gauge tell me that it could go on a full charge was 27 kilometers. You can switch it to max eDrive mode, and that uses electricity only, and it will try to squeeze as much electricity as it can out of the batteries. In that mode, you can go up to about 140 kilometers an hour or 75-ish miles an hour. But of course, the range still isn't the greatest. And the last mode is battery control. In that mode, the engine gets turned on and obviously you're driving using the engine, but it also uses a little bit of the engine's power to recharge the battery. In that mode, you can also tell the computer as to how much you want the battery to be charged to. So for example, right now I have it set to 80%. So it will keep the engine running unless you're at a complete stop, but it will keep the engine running and it'll recharge up to that point. But because the engine has to not only drive 2 tons of SUV, but also charge up the battery, fuel economy is not going to be great in that drive mode. Every time that I have driven in that battery control mode, I've noticed that the fuel economy numbers are hovering somewhere around 10 to 11 liters per 100 kilometers. If you let the battery die out and you're just in regular auto eDrive mode, then obviously the engine is not going to be charging the battery and fuel economy drops down to about 7-ish liters per 100 kilometers when you're on a highway on a steady cruise. However, if you consistently plug the X3 in at home or when you get to work or when you go do your groceries, then you can drive on electricity alone. And so far I have been doing that while I've had this X3, and my average right now is about 6.3 liters per 100 kilometers. That's actually really good. That's pretty much Toyota Prius territory. Charging the X3 30e from a 120 volt wall outlet will take about 6 hours, while a level 2 charging station can fully charge up the BMW in about 3.5 hours. The SUV can also recoup some electricity when slowing down. Lift off the accelerator pedal and the regen braking recoups about half of available energy. Lightly apply the brakes and full regen braking is achieved, with the disc brakes engaging should you require more braking force. Despite the extra heft from the batteries, the BMW X3 30e still retains the sporty handling characteristics that BMWs are known for. It's not going to outpace a sedan per se, but for a family hauler and daily commuter, the X3 30e feels solid around the twisties. The steering weight is more pronounced when in the sport mode, as is the quickness. Driving the X3 on city streets is not as bad as you may think. The suspension absorbs bumps very well. However, if you hit a large enough pothole, some of the noise gets translated through the suspension and into the cabin. At higher speeds, the X3 feels heavy and stable when driving on a highway. The cabin is pretty well insulated from outside noises. There is a little bit of tire noise, but that's because this particular demo vehicle is on winter tires, not all seasons. So with all seasons, I suspect it'll be a little bit quieter. But the noise that you may notice the most when you're driving on a highway is wind noise around the mirrors. I'm not saying that it's intrusive or anything like that. It's just you notice it only if you really pay attention to it. If you have the radio running or if you're just chatting with someone in the cabin, you're not really going to pay attention to it. As well, the engine is, well, you don't even really notice it even when it is running. Most of the time, hopefully, you will be able to drive on electricity alone, and then there's absolutely no engine noise or engine vibrations. But if it is running, you don't really tend to notice it unless you really put your foot down, and it just doesn't feel like it has any vibrations. It feels very smooth. And as well, because the electric motor is a starter generator, auto start stop is, again, very smooth. The passenger space in the X3 30e remains relatively unchanged from the gasoline-only version. However, that means that it still has the least front and rear legroom when compared to the Mercedes GLC and Volvo XC60. Adults over 6 feet will have enough space in the front seats, but the rear seats can be a bit tight if you're as tall as myself at 6'4". The Volvo XC60 can claim the most rear legroom. When it comes to cargo, the floor of the trunk had to be raised a little bit to accommodate the batteries. As a result, the X3 30e has 770 liters of cargo behind the second row, and 1,682 liters of cargo with the second row folded. The standard BMW X3 30e comes equipped with heated seats, heated steering wheel, LED headlights, parking sensors, backup camera, and auto-dimming mirrors, to name a few. However, this demo vehicle is not a base model. It has a few extra packages, such as the M Sport and Premium Enhanced packages. These add features like upgraded brakes, 20-inch wheels, M aerodynamics, panoramic sunroof, rear sunshades, head-up display, heated rear seats, and ambient lighting. This demo vehicle also had surround view cameras and wireless phone charging as standalone options. On the outside, apart from the charge port on the driver's side front fender, the X3 30e looks identical to the non-hybrid variants. That is to say, a pretty good looking and somewhat conservative design when compared to the new 7 Series, X7, and 4 Series with their oversized grills. The X3 looks grown up and almost elegant. So I'm just going to end the video in here because it got a whole lot wetter outside. And what do I think of the BMW X3 30e? I actually really like it. Sure, I do want more electric range without sacrificing cargo capacity, but it drives pretty good and the interior is nice and quiet. It's a little bit on the conservative side, but I actually really like it. The BMW X3 30e starts at $60,000 Canadian, which is pretty much in the same ballpark as the Mercedes-Benz GLC 350e, but is significantly less expensive than the Volvo XC60 T8. Out of those three cars, I have not driven the Mercedes-Benz because for 2020, and I'm pretty sure for 2021, it's not available here in Canada. Hopefully it will be. It is available in the United States though. And the Volvo, the one that I drove, was the Polestar edition, so it was more or less the M version of Volvo vehicles. However, out of those three, I would probably still pick the BMW. Like I said, I do wish it had more electric driving range without sacrificing cargo capacity, but for the amount of money that you're paying, especially compared to that Volvo, I think this BMW is worth it. And if you want to know more about this BMW X3 30e, I wrote a comprehensive and detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck, or I think it'll be another SUV next time. Anyway, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.